Hey, it's Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to do a final breakdown, but I also want to do a prediction for George Kambosos and also Devin Haney. I'm just going to jump right into this. So when I look at these two fighters, it's going to be a much different fight than the Teofimo Lopez fight, for George Kambosos. In Teofimo Lopez, you had a guy who's tricky and explosive. With Devin Haney, you have somebody who's a pressure guy / walk you down, power punches. Not saying that, neither one of these guys are knockout artists. All right. Neither George Kambosos nor Devin Haney is a knockout artist. But Devin Haney does throw a lot more, heavy shots. And I think he is the harder of the two punchers, between him and George Kambosos. So, when I look at this fight, I definitely think George Kambosos is faster. I think he has faster feet, much faster hands, and he throws in combinations, which is a great thing. But when I look at Devin Haney, I think he has better overall reflexes, and I think he has better timing. So timing beats speed, so kind of nullifies that for Kambosos. However, Kambosos does throw in combinations, but Devin Haney is a much better counterpuncher than George Kambosos. So yeah, you're going to throw in combinations, but he's probably going to catch you one because you're throwing in a combination. So I think that's two for Devin Haney right there. I think he has better timing. I also think he's a better counterpuncher. Like I said, I think George Kambosos has better feet in terms of just overall movement. I think in terms of just being athletic and explosive, I would say they're probably a tie. Devin Haney does know how to get out of the way, but he doesn't typically get out of the way with his legs. He'll more than likely get out of the way just, slipping a shot, doing a Canelo type of thing, or his upper body is doing all the movement, and he's firmly planted on the lower end, his base, and which is another reason why he has that wide stance. Not to mention, he does know how to go into that Philly shell pretty well. He does it well. He does it well. And, unlike Adrian Broner, he doesn't live and die by that thing. He'll go into it if he needs it. If he just needs to be defensive in a moment, then he'll go into it, then he'll come out of it. And I feel like that's another thing that I gotta admit for Devin Haney is I just feel like he will present different looks. George Kambosos won't necessarily present a different look. He'll just go harder and doing more George Kambosos. And I don't know if that's gonna necessarily serve him well. They call him Ferocious for a reason, and it has served him thus far. He's undefeated and he's a unified. He got all the belts. So clearly it has served him. But I don't know with this opponent. Now, one of the things I will definitely give George Kambosos is he's a lot more busy than Devin Haney. Devin Haney will definitely walk you down, and Devin Haney will definitely apply pressure. But a lot of times he won't do anything with the pressure. He kind of reminds you of Canelo Alvarez in that sense that he'll be in front of you and he'll be, pushing you back. But he'll be pushing you back more so with his presence than his actual activity. His punch output or anything like that. And, I think he's going to have to up his punches. I don't think he's going to win anything by not punching that much or being very conservative with his punches. Now, I definitely think that George Kambosos has a chin. He's been down before, but I definitely think he has a chin. And I think Teofimo Lopez hits harder than Devin Haney. So, do I see this fight going the distance? Yeah, I do. But I either see this being stopped by maybe the corner or the distance. I don't necessarily see a knockout. Devin Haney needs probably a knockout to win. I mean, look, all this hooray and hoorah is going up just because the man's father can't get into the country. So I imagine for Devin, it would be a lot safer if he could get a knockout. if he can leave the judges out of this, if he can take, you know, his destiny into his own hands, that would be the wisest decision for him. I think he not only needs to apply that pressure, but I think he needs to apply that pressure very early. And I think he needs to up his volume. And I think he needs to press George Kambosos at all costs. And I'm not saying, you know, I remember with the Maidana fight and Floyd, he was like, your trainer's telling you to fight dirty. I'm not saying fight dirty, but I am saying be very aggressive. When in doubt, push him back. Be very aggressive. Don't let him get off the ropes. Be very aggressive. I clearly believe Devin Haney is going to be the more aggressive of the two. I believe he'll be the one walking George Kambosos down. I mean, he is bigger too, but George Kambosos is going to be throwing a lot of fire at him. So it's just like, yeah, you might be walking him down, but you're going to be losing in points. So you better be doing something while you're walking him down. Like I said, neither one of them are supreme power punchers or anything like that. But I think there's a lot on the line with this fight, you know, because even in terms of George Kambosos, yes, you have all the belts. And yes, you beat the guy who beat the guy. You know, because Teofimo Lopez beat Lomachenko. So you beat the guy who beat the guy. That makes you the man. However, it's not a good look when you beat the guy and then you lose it in the next fight. So this fight is just as important for George Kambosos as it is for Devin Haney. Because for George Kambosos, the question is, are you the real deal? Are you really that guy? Yeah, you beat the guy who beat the guy, but are you really the man? And this fight is going to solidify George Kambosos as the man. And for Devin Haney, I mean, this is what you get into the sport for. You want all them belts, you know, like, so I don't need to explain why he's going for what he's going for. But on top of that, for Devin Haney, keep in mind, this is the guy who got his belt emailed to him. You know, like he got his belt in the mail. So it's also going to solidify him as a true champ because you didn't fight for that belt. They just gave you the belt. You know, you got your belt by FedEx. So, like, you know, like, it's going to solidify you as well. George Kambosos is like, all right, you won, but was it a fluke that you won? Can you really do this again? Can you actually defend? It's one thing to win the belt. It's something else to defend it. That's George Kambosos. Devin Haney, are you truly a champion? Are you really? Because technically right now you're a paper champion. That's what you are. And it is what it is, bro. That's what you are. You're a paper champion. But this would solidify you as a true champion. Not just a champion, but a true champion. So that title paper champion would go out and it would be true champ. So there's a lot on the line for both guys. There's a lot on the line for both guys. And there's a lot at stake. I do favor Devin Haney, to be honest. I really do. Yes, George Kambosos, you know, he's fought a lot of guys, but I feel like one of the things that makes Devin Haney special is who he's been around all his years. He's been around great fighters. He's been around Floyd Mayweather. He was training with Mike Tyson. He was, you know, his tutelage is a long strain of champions. That's his tutelage. You know, so, yeah, you know, like, listen, you might say, well, in the fight, that doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Passed down wisdom does mean something. I don't care what anybody says. If someone's passing down wisdom, it does mean something. And I think this is the perfect moment for all of that to come forth and come together and show itself in Devin Haney as a true fighter. So it does mean something. And I look forward to this fight. I think it's going to be a lot for both guys, but a lot's on the line. And they're both going to have to step it up. And it is what it is. They're both going to have to step it up. You know, because the guy who loses this fight, it's not going to be a good look. It's not going to be, if you're George Kambosos, it's like, you wasn't really the guy. You just got lucky on the night of. And then if you're Devin Haney, that's the reason why they had to give you a belt, because you're a paper champ. You're not a real champ. That's the reason why they had to give it to you. A lot's on the line. A lot's on the line. You know, it's not like any other fighters. It's not like, you know, George Kambosos has been defending this thing over and over and over again, and then this night in particular, he loses it. No, a lot's on the line. You know, but Devin Haney's got a lot stacked against him, I feel like. Listen, whenever you go into somebody else's backyard, you're at the mercy of his home. And that is just what it is at this point. You're at the mercy of his home. You have to go for broke. You have to make it a fight. You have to make it, in the words of Oscar De La Hoya, you got to make it a rough, tough fight. And that's just what it is. You got to make it a rough, tough fight. You got to make it very uncomfortable for George Kambosos. And you can't allow him to get in his groove, because he will get into his groove, and that's one thing about George Kambosos. Once he gets going, he gets going. So you can't allow him to do that. You have to make yourself known. Round one, bell one. Make yourself known. Push him back. Show him I'm the bigger fighter. I'm the younger fighter. I'm the stronger fighter. You're going to have to show him that. And you're going to have to, like I said, you got better timing. You're going to have to make him miss. You're going to have to make him pay. He might throw a 4 or 5 punch combination. He might land 2, but you make him pay for the 3. That's what it is. But Devin Haney, you got to up your punch output, because it's going to mean a lot in this fight. It's going to mean a lot. It's going to mean everything, actually. It's going to mean everything. It's not just enough to back him down, because in terms of the judges, they're going to be like, yeah, you're backing him down, but he's tagging you up. You look at Canelo Alvarez versus Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, Canelo backed him up a few times, but while he was getting backed up, Dimitri Bivol was touching him up. He was touching his face. He was touching him up. So it's like, yeah, I'm backing up, but I'm doing all the work. So, in terms of the judges, what are y'all looking at? Because I'm backing up, but I'm using brains, and I'm still being offensively sound. Doesn't mean anything that I'm backing up. Doesn't mean that he's scaring me or he's putting me in a position where I'm uncomfortable. It just means I'm just using this space to work. So you can't base what the judges see. The only thing you can base when it comes to the judges is they're in somebody else's house. That's not your home. That's not going to be your crowd. And you got to know the crowd is against you, Devin. You got to know the crowd is against you. Every time George Kambosos hits you, they're going to be like, ah. And it's going to look to the judges like, wow, maybe we just missed something. George must have really just did something. That must have been a hard crack. And they may say they don't, but I truly believe that whenever the crowd makes noise, judges are, their antennas go up, and it's like, uh-oh, that was a good one. That's definitely a hometown crowd round. You can't trust anything. You can't trust the system once you go over there. You got to do you, and you got to do you at the height of you, at the best ability of you, and then take it to another level, because you got to finish this fight. You have to finish this fight. If not, we're looking at another, my goodness, I'm thinking of his name, fought Jack Catterall, and then he wins. My goodness, I can't think of his name, but at 140, and you all know who I'm talking about. But you can't leave it to the judges. You can't. You're in somebody else's house. You got to go for broke. Up your punch output. Move him back. Make an aggressive fight. George, he doesn't fight well off those ropes. He needs space to operate. Take that from him. Take every bit of real estate from him and make him work. Make him work. Make him pay. I do have Devin Haney winning by decision. And I'm saying decision after what I just said. I believe he will knock George Kambosos down once or twice. Enough to solidify that he won the fight. That's what I'm saying. But I don't necessarily know if he's going to finish him. I think it's the safest for him. And I know going in, that's got to be his mindset. And I know that's what his team is telling him. I know that's what his dad is calling him and saying, son, you got to finish him. There is no other way. You're not going to win this any other way. You got to take him out. So I'm saying that Devin Haney will finish George Kambosos. That's what I'm saying. He will finish, or he will knock him down enough times to where it solidifies there's no way you guys can rob me of this fight. That's my fight breakdown, but that's also my prediction. I have Devin Haney winning by decision with, maybe 1 or 2 knockdowns over George Kambosos. That's what I have. Drop your comments down below. Tell me what you think. Do you think Devin will win? Do you think George Kambosos will win? Do you think it'll be by knockout? Do you think it's going to the decision? I want to hear what you have to say. Drop your comments down below. As always, please like, please share, and subscribe.